Hello, everybody. Edre here, and for anybody new here, I make casual reviews, and it is just my opinion, so take everything I say with a massive, massive grain of salt. Today, I'm going to be doing a new review of the brand new Weezer album, OK Human, and like I do in all my reviews, I start with a bit of background. How do I think Weezer's been? What are my overall thoughts on the band? Well, I have a lot to cover when it comes into this background section, since it's the first time I'm actually in depth talking about Weezer on this channel. Bit of background: Weezer's Blue, their debut album, is without a doubt one of my favorite albums of that style. Definitely a pinnacle of a really important album for sure in the 90s of alternative rock, period. And its follow-up, Pinkerton, is an album that I'm not nearly as crazy about, but it is still them moving in the right direction. Ever since then, though, I cannot say I have been impressed with just about anything they have done. Well, the Green Album, the White Album, and, everything, like, I can't remember the whole title. While those albums get a good amount of praise amongst a fan base, they still don't even come close to reaching Blue or Pinkerton levels, especially Blue. And on top of that, they have increased their output so much to the point where this is the first of two albums planned on coming out this year. They've been releasing albums every year or two, constantly, and a lot of them have actually just been straight up bad. The Black Album, the Teal Album are bad albums. Pacific Daydream might be their worst. Even go back even further to albums like Make Believe and Maladroit and Hurley. All bad albums, in my opinion. So Weezer has a pretty bad track record. And, well, every now and then they'll come through with a song here and there that I like. When it comes down to the albums, the chances of them actually putting out an album that's really going to impress me is small. But I did go into this album with open ears, especially after I heard the first single, All My Favorite Songs. Musically, this album and that single follows through with a much more chamber pop and baroque pop inspired sound than past releases. The guitars are essentially out the window, and I actually don't have too much of an issue with that. That's probably the least of my concerns. Classical, luscious string arrangements appear all throughout this album. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the tracks and how it sort of set me up for this album. Like I said, the first thing shown on this album is All My Favorite Songs, which was the debut single. And, well, sonically, it's interesting. I like the more string arrangements on the song. I just feel like it is a relatively bland track with some weak lyrics as well. Definitely not River's best. And, as a single, it didn't leave too much of an impact on me. It has grown on me since when I first heard it. However, I still do not think it is, their best thing they've ever released. I will say, this next song, Alu Gobi, I think is how you pronounce it, comes across, it's a different tone. It's a little more corny, but not in a good way. It's more like they're trying to be cool. I mean, it's hard to say, but, the string arrangements on that song just add a corniness to it, and this becomes a common, theme throughout this entire album. A lot of the string arrangements on these songs don't come across as that mature. They come across as relatively immature, because when you blend Weezer's sound with some string instrumentals inspired by a lot of classical stuff, it doesn't come across as mature or advanced. It just comes across like Sims music or something, and it does not ring well with me. There are just several pretty massive duds on this album as well that I just really do not like. Grapes of Wrath being one of the biggest ones. One of my least favorites, because I feel like the song just would have been bad anyway. Even if they reworked this without strings and guitar and it appeared on one of their past albums, I still would have not liked the song. It's just, the strings don't fit the song at all. Anyway, and the chorus of this song is just so obnoxiously bad that I just don't get why it's on here. The song Playing My Piano is another one that very well might just be the cheesiest song on this album, but not like the fun, corny wittiness that you used to get on Blue or Pinkerton. No. It just sounds like poorly written lyrics over just that are going to age really bad, and And quite a few songs on here are just so short, they're like interludes, they don't even leave much of an impact. And I wonder, why on a 12-song album do you need multiple songs that are like 2 minutes or less? Like, it seems like filler. It seems like they ran out of ideas, which they have been out of for 20 years. That being said, there are a few highlights on this album, without a doubt. I do think Numbers is a highlight. The instrumentation is much more soothing, and I actually think Rivers Cuomo sounds much more bearable on this track. And the lyrics really aren't that trashy. They're pretty good. It's even a little reminiscent of some of Keen's material back in their heyday, especially on the soaring vocals on the chorus. The track even has a little bit of Britpop influence in there. And also, the song Dead Roses also stuck out to me a little bit. And one of the more mature sounding tracks on this album. Unfortunately, besides that, I don't have too much else to say about any of these tracks specifically, but I have some overall thoughts. Well, this may seem like a really negative review. I did not hate this album. I did think that overall, Weezer has made much better albums in the past. And I also think that, honestly, I don't expect Weezer to really make another Blue or Pinkerton at this point. But it is clear to me that this is a step up from the Black Album, from that horrible, horrible cover album, Teal, and definitely a step up from Pacific Daydream. But it is what it is. I mean, it's still a Weezer album in 2021 that sounds like a band that really has not progressed anywhere. They, don't let them fool you with their string arrangements, because the string arrangements sound very nice. They sound very pleasing on your ears, and I actually was relatively satisfied with all the arrangements on this album. But when you actually boil these songs down, these songs are still your standard, just uneventful, modern Weezer songs. If these didn't have the string arrangements and had the, sort of more guitar-driven tracks that they usually do, this album would probably be panned. But yeah, I have settled on giving OK Human by Weezer a wheezy 5 out of 10. Anybody new here needs to know anything above a 5 is good. Anything below a 5 is bad. So I have very indifferent. It's very average. It's a very average album that I can care less about. I have lesser of expectations for Van Weezer, because that is an album that everything I've heard leading up to it I have disliked. So I don't know. You can only hope for the best. But at the end of the day, what did I expect? Weezer back with another painfully average album. OK Human, 5 out of 10. Goodbye. I'll be back.